Welcome to another Financial 15. Lots of great information. All of our videos have great information. This one, we're talking retirement regrets. We work with a lot of retirees, passing along a few tidbits of things people often wish they would have done differently. Lots of great information. Definitely want to stick around.
Yes, you work your whole life waiting and anticipating to get to that day when you can finally say, I'm pulling the plug on the job and I'm into retirement. But have you planned for that properly? Are there regrets that you've made because you didn't think about it ahead of time? We want to talk about those. Now, if you want to find this video or any of our other ones, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Lots of great content there. You'll be really impressed with what you've got. And if there's any questions, you come around. Or like us on Facebook. And most importantly, visit our website at beckerorr.com. You've got blogs, you've got events, you've got videos, everything that you need to try and find out about your financial situation. Now, today we are talking about 3 retirement regrets in specific and things that you should be looking at just to make sure that you have your retirement plan properly. Clint, what do we want to deal with as a first retirement regret?
And we should say, we talk with a lot of retirees, not necessarily this is a regret, saying, oh man, my retirement is ruined. Just things perhaps they've learned, they wish they would have known earlier, wish they would have done differently, all kind of fall into that big umbrella of regret. And the first one might be surprising, not spending enough. And often this comes with early retirement. You retire, perhaps as a fear, you know what, I'm going to live a long life. Maybe I'll run out of money, or maybe there's a turbulent market. You're not sure what that means for your spending in 10 years or in 5 years from now. So you cut back. And then in your mid-80s, well, now you got a big pile of cash and you're in a different situation than you were perhaps when you retired at 65. So not spending enough. And this, we have data to back this up. We did a whole video on this. We'll link to that video. They've done studies, Kevin, where they look at how much people spend in that first 2 decades of retirement. And often they really don't spend down the principal. So often there is going to be a pile of cash at the end. So this is a very common topic. Not spending as much as perhaps they want to. Not necessarily that you got to spend all of it, but the idea that you're intentionally holding back and cutting back on your lifestyle, that can be a regret later in retirement. Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's face facts. For 30 to 40 years, you've been told to save and save and save and put the money away so that you have something in retirement. And then switching that switch automatically is not simple to say you're going from saving mode into spending mode for everything. The other factor, I mean, a lot of people, they look at that bank account, they really don't like seeing that thing shrink at all. So you may cut back here and there just because, well, I have to make sure I have enough. I don't have an income coming in anymore from work, so maybe I have to deal with it. So you may not spend as much as you should in retirement if you're cutting corners or anything along those lines. So yeah, making sure that you look at that plan as to where to go. And as you said, we've done video on this where we show most people do not spend anywhere near what they probably could going into that retirement scenario. So not spending enough is definitely a huge one that people have to look at and make sure that you have that set going forward.
Yeah, and a good takeaway there is get a good idea of the budget. I mean, that helps out. It's a big factor that helps with your planning. That'll help you give a better idea of your spending. You don't want to just be going willy-nilly month to month. You want to have a pretty good idea of the budget. Maybe that takes a year or two of retirement to really fine-tune that, but that's going to be a key ingredient to helping with this item. The second one here, Kevin, on the list, we're going through 3. Number 2 is the taxes on retirement income. Not necessarily this is a regret. Perhaps this falls into the category of something they wish they knew earlier, wish they knew in advance, because retirement income, employment income, 2 different ballparks when it comes to taxation, isn't it?
Yeah, basically it is. I mean, let's face facts. When you're working, basically your employer is taking the taxes off before you ever get it. You get a net income at the end of the day. You've paid your CPP, you've paid up your unemployment insurance and everything else. It's all been taken away. So you know what you get net, and you know the taxes that have been paid and what you may owe at the end of the day. When you're dealing with retirement income, now it's a different animal. You may be getting CPP, OAS, you may have a pension coming in. None of these sources may take taxes off at all because they don't all interact with each other. So knowing what your tax situation is or how much you're going to get as income could be a huge factor. For CPP and OAS, you have to let them know if you want taxes taken off. The same thing could be with your private pension. Or again, if you're taking money out of a RIF or something along those lines, you can take out the minimum amount without taxes, and then all of a sudden you're going to pay at the end of the year. So not taking enough in taxes on retirement income could be a huge blow at the end of the day. If you take it all up front, then you have this large tax bill come April the next year. How am I going to pay it now? So knowing what your tax situation looks like and what your income is huge. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, the tax on retirement income versus trying to sort out what you had with employment income. It's just a whole different ballgame, right? And that's really the
Yep.
part that people wish they would have known in advance. Maybe you have your work pension, you have drawn from your RSP at CPP, you have OAS, and you have some non-registered investments with capital gains and dividends. They're all taxed differently, and they all might not take tax at source. And even if they do withhold tax at source, it might not be coordinated. Maybe they take tax at source from your employment pension, but they only look at the money they give you, and they don't factor in any of the other sources of income, so you don't have enough taken off. So that is a bit of a learning curve trying to sort that out. Often we talk about kind of a year or two of retirement to really get that down pat. And it's not necessarily you have to pay all the tax up front. It's more just making sure you have a plan to handle it. So maybe you keep a bit of money aside, and you know what, I'm going to have a tax bill when I file my return because I didn't pay it as I went. I'm saving up and I'm paying at the end. If you're comfortable with that, then perfect. As long as you have a plan for it, it works. Most folks, our experiences, they normally want to pay as you go, as opposed to getting a big bill in April when they file their returns. They want to take care of it as they go, so they know the money in the bank is the money they can spend. That would be the more common solution, but take some time to figure that out because it is different sources of income. Not all of them might be taxed, but not all of them might be taxed the same. So that is definitely something people often wish they would have known in advance, is how to handle that. And a third item here, I think this would fall under the regret category, is not planning for the transition to retirement. We mean that both from a financial perspective as well as from an emotional perspective. There's a lot's going on there, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, here you are. You've worked probably 30 to 40 years of your life. This has been the way everything's gone, and you're anticipating retirement. But now that it's hit, do you have a plan? Do you have hobbies that you're going to continue to do? Are you going to work part-time somewhere else? Are you traveling? Are you doing all those things? Not having that plan is a big factor going forward. I mean, you've had that sort of reaction for every day I'm doing this and every day I'm doing this. And all of a sudden now that may not be the same scenario. So as you mentioned, not only is it one to try and figure out how to work it, but it's an emotional situation as well. You go from this is who I was to now I'm the new guy. I've gone from work guy to retirement guy. And that can be a very big switch for a lot of people. They need to know in advance that these are things that you have to look at. Just saying that I'm stopping work today, 6 months down the road after doing all the stuff that you needed to, you may not have that plan. And then that can have a huge effect, not only on your well-being, but also on your mental state as well. So making sure you have that retirement transition plan in place is something that you should look at before you hit the retirement date. Don't start it once you get to retirement. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. There's a whole source of an emotional transition there people often go through. Not for everyone, but retirement can be a big item. It can be a bit of a shock to the routine, and it takes some time to develop the new routine, get set up in your new role. And also from a financial point of view, the steps you took to accumulate the wealth are going to be different than the steps you have to take to preserve the wealth and create income. So again, a bit of a learning curve there, another transition, emotional transition, as well as a financial transition. So there is lots going on. When it comes to transitioning into retirement, often we think about it like a single event, right? We're working with, you know what, when I get to 62 and a half, that's the day, Kevin. I'm retiring. I've marked it on my calendar. Done. Check that off. Retired. Of course, it's not a one-day event. You've got a couple of decades of life after that, and it's planning for that transition from the financial point of view, as well as from the emotional point of view. That really sets you up for happiness throughout retirement, and that is the goal. And we've said it a couple of times here. I think you may have already guessed what the key is across all of these retirement regrets. It's to have a plan.
Yeah, that's basically it. The Becker Orr mantra is always have a plan. You can do a lot of these things. We can mention investments, retirement, anything else you want on it, but you need to have a plan going forward. As much as it doesn't seem like you'd have to deal with these things, this is something that you always have to look forward to. Where's my next investments? What's my plan for that? What does my retirement goal look like? What does my estate plan look like? Having a plan in advance makes it a lot easier to deal with, because that way you have some sort of a guideline as to where to go, as opposed to saying, well, I'm going to do it off the cuff and hope and pray that things go along that way. So the plan is really important, isn't it, Clint?
It does. It helps answer all the big questions, especially the three that we talked about. Not spending enough. Well, if you've given some thought to the budget and the lifestyle and you plan for that, well, you'll probably address that in advance, as well as the taxes on retirement versus employment income. Again, that's all part of the plan. You can see where your income sources are coming from, how they're taxed, make sure it's going to be a solution that works for you. And as well as part of that transition, that would be all encompassed in that overall financial plan. So that was the 3 retirement regrets. The plan can help solve them. If you have questions, or maybe it's a regret we didn't even mention you want to talk to about, let us know. Chat with ClintonKevin.com. Fill in the form. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. We get back to everyone that fills in that form. So please reach out. we'd be happy to talk to you. Any parting comments for the folks, Kevin?
Yeah, nothing really. A couple comments, quick and simple. 3 retirement regrets. If you can think of any other ones, please give us that shout. Let us know, and we can put out another 3 retirement regrets if they're there. Things that you've learned over the past that maybe we didn't mention this time. Other than that, we will be back soon with another video. You take care.